So hey everyone, in this video, let's quickly talk about startup execution roadmap. Obviously, if you're building a startup, chances of your startup getting failed is very high, and that's why you have to work really hard and make a complete roadmap so that at least your team have something to achieve down the line in the future. So the first thing that will come to your roadmap is the validation stage. Obviously, this is the very early stage. Imagine you only have idea in your mind and you do not have any startup or any real business. At this stage, you have to make sure that you first have to validate the hypothesis that you have in your mind. Let's say you just have a startup idea. You do not know how to build products or you do not know how to even code. Well, you first have to build the MVP of your product. MVP is nothing but minimum version of your product, aka minimum viable product. Now you can easily build MVP on a piece of paper or maybe in any sort of online tools like Figma or Canva. And once you have an MVP in your hand, then you can show that MVP to your co-founder, to your friends, to your family members, or even to some investors just to ask about their feedback. Once you show this MVP to some co-founders or some team members, they will have a good understanding of what's there in your mind, because you first have to omit out the information from your brain to a piece of paper or to any online software or tool. Then you have to quickly validate or iterate the MVP or maybe build a better version of MVP. Let's say if you're building the MVP on a piece of paper, transfer that MVP from a piece of paper to maybe in Figma. Or maybe if you're building it in Figma, transfer the Figma file into web page or any sort of landing page, so that you have at least some form of iteration or validation. And then you will build a business model around it. How exactly you're going to make money, what all parties you have in your business. So let's say you have consumer, you have distributor, you have manufacturer, and all those people who are there in your business. And you have to brainstorm all these things with your co-founders or with your team members if you have. The second stage is the formation stage, which is the legal formation structure of your company. So right now you might be registered as a sole proprietorship company or a LLC, but now you have to change your legal structure in the form of corporation. If you're living in United States, then it's a Delaware C corporation kind of legal structure. If you're living in India, it's a private limited kind of legal structure. In UK, it's different. In Indonesia, Myanmar, it's PTE limited. So the legal structure is very complex. You have to talk to a lawyer or to someone who can understand your requirement and can help you maybe make some form of legal structure for your startup or for your company. But make sure you have all the founders, all the equity holders in your company. And one of the reason we are doing or we are separating you with the legal structure is the liability. So you will not be liable in the future if something goes wrong. The company will be liable. Obviously, you hold majority of the equity share, but you're still not liable for any sort of mishappening or wrong thing that happens in the company. And the third stage of execution roadmap is the growth. Obviously, once you have a legal structure in place, once you are building products for your company, and once you raise some amount of capital for investors, now you have to first find your seed investors. That can be some form of accelerators or incubators or family members or any angel investor. So that comes under pre-seed, seed category. And then you have to make sure that your startup is growing and you're selling product to customers. Now that's a very short roadmap you have in front of you, but we can also go and we can also learn a very complex roadmap. So remember, you first go from a -2 stage to a 3 stage, which means you first have a problem or solution with you, or let's say a startup idea. Then basically you go from a problem or a solution startup idea to a vision and founders fit, which is choosing your co-founders, hiring some initial people in your team. And then you always look for incorporation, and then you try to find a product market fit. We will understand how will you define product market fit. And then from product market fit, you will try to go into business model or a market fit or fundraising or growth stage. That's the overall roadmap you can follow. Now that's a very shorter version of the roadmap. We will go and understand the very complex roadmap in the next video.